The sound of one punch echoed through the crowded gym so loudly that every conversation stopped at once. Heavy bags stopped swinging, jump ropes froze in midair, and dozens of eyes turned toward the center of the training mat. An arrogant young black belt, famous on social media for humiliating beginners, stood over a quiet middle-aged father with a smug smile on his face, convinced he had just embarrassed another old man. What nobody inside that bright, sunlit gym knew was that the calm father had survived battlefields far more terrifying than any competition mat. He had buried brothers in uniform, carried wounded soldiers across burning streets, and returned home carrying invisible scars that no medal could erase. The young champion believed strength was measured by belts, trophies, and applause. Before the day ended, everyone in that gym would discover that true strength looked nothing like they imagined, and the ending would leave every witness speechless. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is never weakness and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Kindness Tales so you never miss another unforgettable story that reminds us what real courage looks like. The retired Marine was named Garrick Rowan, a 46-year-old widowed father whose broad shoulders and weathered face reflected years of sacrifice instead of pride. His hair had turned silver around the temples long before most men his age, and a long faded scar stretched quietly beneath the sleeve of his training shirt. He had never entered the gym to prove anything. Every weekday morning after dropping his 12-year-old son, Rowan, at school, he visited the local fitness center to stay healthy and manage the lingering pain that still haunted old injuries. The sunlight poured through the tall glass windows, filling the spacious gym with warmth instead of shadows. Children practiced beginner classes in one corner while adults worked on conditioning in another. The atmosphere usually felt welcoming, filled with encouragement and laughter, until one instructor transformed every session into a performance. That instructor was 28-year-old Cade Mercer, one of the youngest black belts in the region. He possessed remarkable talent, explosive speed, and thousands of followers online who celebrated every flashy knockout and every sarcastic comment aimed at weaker students. Success had quietly replaced humility with arrogance. Cade believed older fighters were relics from another era. Experience meant nothing compared to athleticism in his mind. Every class became another opportunity to entertain the cameras recording his victories and clever insults. Students admired him because they wanted to become champions. Few realized they were slowly learning confidence without compassion. Garrick ignored the performances for weeks. He focused on stretching, rehabilitation exercises, and helping newer members whenever they struggled with equipment. His kindness attracted attention in quiet ways. Elderly members appreciated his patience. Children smiled whenever he encouraged them after difficult drills. Employees noticed that he cleaned equipment without being asked and always greeted everyone with genuine respect. Few knew he had once commanded Marines under impossible conditions overseas. He never mentioned military service unless someone directly asked. To Garrick, the past was something to honor quietly, not advertise loudly. His greatest mission now waited every afternoon outside Jefferson Middle School. Rowan carried his own invisible burdens after losing his mother to illness 3 years earlier. The cheerful boy loved drawing airplanes because they reminded him of stories his father told about hope arriving from distant skies during dangerous missions. Garrick promised himself that his son would never inherit bitterness. Every lesson centered on kindness, patience, and responsibility. The Marine who once trained to defeat enemies now devoted himself to raising a compassionate young man. Word slowly spread around the gym that the quiet father had military experience. Curiosity reached Cade, who dismissed the rumors with a laugh. He joked that surviving decades ago did not make someone tough today. During one afternoon class, cameras were recording promotional footage while members practiced controlled sparring. Cade decided entertaining his audience mattered more than respecting another person. He approached Garrick with exaggerated confidence, loudly inviting him onto the mat. Everyone looked toward the older father. Garrick politely declined, explaining he was recovering from old injuries and had no interest in competition. Instead of respecting the answer, Cade mocked it as fear disguised as wisdom. Laughter spread among a handful of students eager to impress their instructor. Garrick simply smiled and returned to cleaning a nearby bench. That quiet response somehow irritated Cade even more. Pride often struggles against people who refuse to fight. Hoping to force a reaction, he walked closer and lightly shoved Garrick's shoulder. The older father remained perfectly balanced. Without anger, he calmly asked the instructor to stop. Cameras continued recording while whispers filled the gym. Cade interpreted restraint as weakness. Determined to create an unforgettable viral clip, he demonstrated a fast combination inches from Garrick's face before delivering one reckless punch directly into the retired Marine's chest. The strike echoed through the room. Nobody expected what happened next. Garrick did not fall backward. Years of disciplined reflexes awakened instantly. One controlled defensive movement redirected the young fighter's balance before a single precise punch landed cleanly against Cade's upper body. It was not fueled by anger. It contained no unnecessary force. Yet the timing and accuracy were flawless. Cade stumbled backward across the mat before collapsing onto one knee, unable to understand how quickly everything had changed. Silence swallowed the gym. Students stared in disbelief. Recording phones slowly lowered. Garrick himself looked shocked, almost disappointed that instinct had acted before thought. He immediately stepped forward, offering his hand rather than celebrating. Concern filled his face instead of satisfaction. Medical staff checked Cade, confirming he was merely stunned. Physically, he would recover quickly. Emotionally, something far deeper had cracked. Many expected Garrick to boast after defeating the gym's most celebrated instructor. Instead, he apologized for allowing instinct to take over. He explained that decades of military training had conditioned certain defensive reactions beyond conscious thought. Violence, he admitted, had already taken enough from his life. Winning meant nothing if another person was humiliated. The gym owner, Miriam Salas, had quietly watched everything from the office balcony. A former athlete herself, she valued discipline above trophies. Rather than praising Garrick's skill, she addressed the entire class. She reminded everyone that martial arts existed to develop character before technique. Belts represented responsibility, not superiority. Every color earned around someone's waist carried the obligation to protect others, especially those who appeared weaker. Those words lingered inside Cade long after the crowd dispersed. That evening he watched the recorded footage alone. For the first time, he ignored his own impressive movements and focused instead on Garrick's expression immediately after the punch. There had been no hatred, no victory, no pride. Only concern. He replayed that moment repeatedly. The realization hurt more than the strike itself. Over the following days, attendance at the gym changed noticeably. Some students left, disappointed by their instructor's behavior. Others stayed because they hoped the culture would improve. Cade canceled online uploads and avoided cameras entirely. The applause that once fueled his confidence suddenly felt empty. Meanwhile, Garrick continued arriving every morning exactly as before. He stretched quietly, greeted everyone warmly, and never mentioned the incident. Whenever curious members praised him for defeating the champion, he redirected the conversation toward encouragement rather than personal achievement. One morning Cade finally gathered enough courage to approach the retired Marine before class began. His confidence had disappeared, replaced by visible humility. The younger man admitted that years of praise had convinced him respect could be demanded instead of earned. Losing in front of everyone had shattered the image he spent years protecting. More painful than defeat itself was realizing the man he insulted still treated him with dignity afterward. Garrick listened without interruption. He explained that combat had taught him a lesson few people wanted to hear. Every fight left both people carrying something afterward, whether bruises, regret, fear, or grief. Real victory meant preventing unnecessary battles before they started. Strength existed to protect peace, not ego. Those words transformed something inside Cade that no championship ever had. The gym slowly changed over the following months. Cameras disappeared from daily classes. New students found encouragement instead of mockery. Children who once feared making mistakes now laughed while learning. Advanced students began mentoring beginners with patience. Cade introduced community self-defense workshops for seniors and free weekend classes for struggling teenagers who could not afford tuition. Garrick volunteered quietly whenever help was needed. Rowan joined him after school, assisting younger children with stretching exercises while proudly wearing a simple volunteer shirt instead of any martial arts uniform. Watching father and son together reminded everyone that the greatest legacy parents leave is not wealth or fame but character. Months later, the city hosted a community sports festival in the same bright gym where everything had happened. Families filled the building from morning until afternoon beneath clear blue skies. Local charities partnered with athletes to raise funds for military families, first responders, and children's education programs. Near the entrance hung a large photograph from the previous year. Many assumed it would feature champions holding trophies. Instead, it showed a retired Marine extending his hand toward the young instructor he had accidentally defeated. Beneath the picture appeared a simple message. Respect is stronger than victory. Visitors paused to read it throughout the day. Many never knew the full story. They simply smiled before continuing inside. As the afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows, Garrick watched Rowan helping a frightened little boy tie his training belt for the first time. The child looked nervous until Rowan encouraged him with the same gentle patience his father had shown others every day. Garrick realized that was the moment he had truly won. Not the punch. Not the applause. Not the respect. His greatest victory stood only a few feet away, growing into the kind of young man who believed kindness required more courage than cruelty ever could. If this story has touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and leave a comment telling us what part inspired you the most. Your support helps Kindness Tales continue sharing stories that remind the world compassion still matters. Special request: before the ending, please comment with one word, respect, if you believe real strength is shown through humility, self-control, and kindness rather than pride. As the festival came to a close and families slowly walked into the warm evening carrying smiles instead of trophies, the gym no longer remembered the loud sound of a single punch. It remembered the quiet power of forgiveness that followed it. Long after bruises faded and applause disappeared, people continued telling the story of the retired Marine dad who defeated arrogance without becoming arrogant himself. His greatest lesson had never been about fighting. It had always been about choosing peace when anger seemed easier, lifting others instead of humiliating them, and proving that the strongest people in the world are often the ones who never need to prove their strength at all. And that unforgettable lesson continued changing lives long after everyone left the gym.